You are listening to CBT Beyond the Couch podcast, a podcast featuring two millennial CBT therapists, Ebony and Kanesha, taking you beyond the couch, discussing all things mental health, faith, trauma, relationships, hot topics, and much more.
We have been friends through high school, college, grad school, and are now colleagues working towards combining realistic, holistic, and faith-based interventions to offer healing to all.
While we hope you enjoy listening and learning from our podcast, it does not replace your own journey with your licensed mental health professional.
We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to another episode of CBT Beyond the Couch. I'm your host, and today I am joined by my father. Hello, Father.
Hey, Kanesha, how you doing today?
I'm well. Tell the people your name because I made the mistake of not telling them my mom's name on her episode.
Well, my name is Kelvin Jones.
Yes. What do you go by? Do you want to say what you go by?
Everybody know me as Rope.
Yes. How does it feel to be on our podcast?
Oh man, I feel like a superstar.
All right, he is a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous too, so bear with us, okay, guys? All right, so you know how we start off our episodes. We start off with our couch check. Mm-hmm. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like pretty low and 10 being like just super excited, super happy, like life is pretty great. How would you say you're feeling today?
Absolute 10.
That's great. What is making it a 10?
Doing the show with you, having you here. We have an event later on, so I have all the people I love in one spot today.
Yes.
Really good today.
Yay. That's good to hear. I guess I would say I'm with nerves. I'm like at a 9.5, but
good.
Yeah, still pretty good. But I am a little nervous because I don't know what to expect of these questions and these answers. But yeah,
that's the good part.
Yes. So I guess we can go ahead and start jumping into these questions. Are you ready?
I guess.
All right. So as I talked about in the last episode with Ebony, we talked about our dynamics with our dads, and we talked about how what our relationships was like. And as you guys know, my parents were teen parents. So I mentioned my mom was 16 when she had me, and my dad was 18. So first question: when you found out my mom was pregnant, what was your initial reaction?
Ooh. Felt it all over again. A bit scared. Just found out I had one child on the way and have a second one on the way. I didn't know how I was going to provide, so I was a little bit worried on how that would take place. That's about all I can remember about it. Mm-hmm. I know it was a little scary, but it seemed like everything worked out.
Yeah, it definitely worked out. But yeah, I can't imagine being 16 or 18 and finding out I can't imagine finding out I'm about to have a kid now at 28. So I can't imagine being 18 finding that out. Ooh, yeah. So I can imagine that you were.
Yeah, 2 kids at 18 is rough.
Yeah.
No more school.
You could have finished. There was a village, but
Yeah.
But I guess you did have to work to provide
That's right.
for 2 kids. So that makes sense, I guess. Okay, and then growing up, how did your relationship with your dad influence the type of dad you wanted to be?
Well, what I learned from my dad was how to provide for a family.
Okay.
My work ethic. Those were the main 2 things that I got from how to take care of the family and provide for your family.
So work ethic and providing.
Yeah.
So that's why your first thought was all right, no more school. I got to go make this money.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then how would you describe the dynamics of our relationship growing up compared to our relationship now?
Well, I think we have a great line of communication now that you're older and everything. Of course, I think that's the biggest thing growing up. I couldn't really communicate with you because you was a child and I didn't know the words to say to you. Mm-hmm. But now that we're older, we're able to talk about our feelings and discuss things and work things out. So that's the dynamics from then to now, as opposed to then I just had to wait till it worked itself out.
What would you think was the biggest challenge when I was a kid as far as trying to communicate, I guess, or not even just with communication? What do you feel was the biggest challenge with our relationship growing up?
Me, I was the biggest.
What you mean by that?
Like being a young teenage boy, man, with children, you really don't know how to raise children or, things to do. So I just kind of fell back a lot and watched and learned when I was younger, which now I'm older and I know what to say and how to treat you and, stuff like that.
Okay. So the biggest challenge was like just basically growing up.
Growing up. That's my biggest challenge, growing
Makes
up.
sense. And then they always say like men mature slower than women.
Well, I always say men never mature, but it's another thing, another story.
Right.
So,
True.
I think growing up was the biggest thing.
And I mentioned that like on me and Ebony's last episode about daddy-daughter dynamics. And I think one of the question was something to the effect of like, what is something you love the most about your dad? And I did say like watching you grow up, like your growth is what I love the most. Because I did see, the growth, the growing up, the maturing, so for sure I can see that.
Well, I'm glad you recognize it.
Of course. I'm an observer, that's what I do.
Well, how do you feel about having an older sister living with her father and you didn't?
I think it was never like something that was like at the forefront of my mind, I guess you can say. Like I don't think in my mind it affected how I felt about you. But I do think like there were times when I felt like left out. I think that's how I felt growing up, like just left out. I never thought about the fact like maybe she got a different side of you, but I don't think so, because you regardless. But I think, yeah, I just felt left out when it came to certain things or certain events and stuff like that. I think that's just how I felt growing up. Yeah, I think that's the only way I can say. I never felt jealous or nothing like that, just because I guess like I know part of her circumstances, so it never made me feel no type of way. But yeah, I think just feeling left out sometimes is the way I felt.
It makes sense, but you was always at the forefront.
Of course. So I talked about in the last episode as well, or in the episode about daddy-daughter dynamics, about the letter that I wrote you in 2018. Do you remember when I sat you down and read that letter?
Vaguely. I do remember we was talking about accountability on and up to things and how you felt, which you have every right to feel the way you feel. But my thing was, all right, well, we got that out the way. That's when our communication started, and we were able to move forward and fix some of those things, I think. But, I really felt bad, that you felt that way. But, hey, that was your feelings, and I was thinking, what can we do to turn this around at that point? So that was my main focus after that, is to try to make this better.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess, and I know I said this before, but what prompted me to do that, because even then, like I wasn't in therapy at the time or nothing like that, but I think you had started like just randomly sending me I love you texts, and it was just awkward for me. So like what made you start doing that?
Well, I must have felt some daddy stuff and felt that you needed to hear it at the time, or I always love you, of course,
right.
But I just felt like I needed to show you that I'm always thinking about you. And like every time I go back and look at old pictures, like from the time you was born to now, like it felt like I was always in your life, so to speak, but you couldn't see that. Like you probably thought I was there every now and then or something. So I just wanted to let you know I've been down since day one.
No,
I just had no idea how to show my emotions and stuff like that. And I was learning how to be a father. So I don't know what made me send them, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
If it got us to this point.
Yeah, and you, like, I always knew you were like a part of my life. Like I said, you were never like an absent dad or nothing like that. But I think it was just, and I think I talked about this wrong too, but just consistency.
Yeah.
I think that's what was lacking, which made me sometimes feel, again, left out.
Yeah.
So that, like, again, like you were never like an absent dad. Like I always knew, who my dad was, and, you were always there if I needed you, of course. But I think it was just consistency and communication that was lacking.
And that was the immaturity. You know, I had to grow. I learned as I went.
Right.
So,
For sure. I think in that letter also I kind of talked about like how I felt about like this side of the family. And I think the biggest thing was just again feeling left out. I always felt like left out of this side just because like in both sides my families are very like family oriented and do stuff often. But I felt like I wasn't a part of things as often, I guess you can say, with this side of the family. So I think part of that letter was also about like how I felt when it came to like your parents or grandparents and this side of the family in general. So
So what do you think the turning point was?
I think you said when I read that letter to you, you were thinking like, how can we change this or how can we turn this around? So I think just that action, like you thinking that, I didn't know you thought that, but like I didn't know you thought that, but you showed that, I guess you can say, because things did start to change, like your action started to change. So I think that was the turning point. Like you sent the text message saying you love me, but then like your action started to show that. So I think that was kind of the turning point for me.
Look at God.
Won't he do it?
Well, what is your view about my side of the family now? 5 years later.
I guess it's the same as like my mom's side. Like I enjoy being with family, whether it's my mom's side or my dad's side. This side, I guess you could say, for me, it's like less drama. For me, I can't say that to everybody. So less drama is just, I don't know, like fun. I love the way like I don't want to say pick at each other, but like the jokes, like nobody takes anything too personal.
That's right.
Yeah. So just being able to like joke and talk junk and nobody walking away like feelings hurting or group chat somebody saying something like, so like I enjoyed that aspect of it. So no, I love being around this side of the family for sure now. Like, yeah, even like with our family vacation, like I think last year was the first time that I went on a family vacation with y'all, and I was a little bit like, I wasn't apprehensive, but I just didn't know like, yeah, and like how I would feel. Also, like everybody know I got like a little attachment issue with my mama, so I didn't know how I was gonna be like not being with her away like with this side of the family. But I ended up having a great time, and then this year it was like, let's do it, like no issues. So I do really enjoy being around this side of the family now. So.
Well, that's also good to hear. You need to have more than twice a year.
That would be great. I wouldn't mind. How do you? Okay, so as we know, this is a podcast talking about mental health and stuff like that. So how do you take care of your mental health as a father, and separate from being a father as a man?
Well, prayer, of course. I always put God first.
Absolutely.
And I always put things back into perspective whenever I'm feeling down. So prayer, and sometimes just sitting alone thinking, reading, video games, just being around family. That's how I'm able to keep my mental health together.
Yeah. What about so you mentioned my sister Keandra, like living with you. So like when you were younger and you, like as a young dad, how did you take care of your mental health? If you took care of your mental health at all?
I didn't. I had a support system. I was immature. I did what teenage boys did. So I can't say I was taking care of my mental health at all, but at the time I didn't know I had mental health problems.
Right.
So
yeah. I think back then for sure nobody talked about
mental.
We probably didn't know what that was back then. But now it's like at the forefront of everything. Everybody talks about mental health. So.
That's right. So, but obviously I had problems, just didn't know how to address them.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't take care of that back then. But now, like I said, prayer, being with family, that always cheer me up.
For sure. I think the same for me. Yeah. Prayer for sure, and then definitely, like I said, being around family. It doesn't matter which side. Like I just love the family events. Yeah. Like, and I think both. Like I just really thank God. And I think I said this the other day. I can't remember who I said it to, but I'm just grateful. Like that I have two families
That's
who
right.
are family oriented,
That
who
is a
get together
blessing.
and do stuff. Right.
That is
Because
a
some
blessing.
people don't have
Love our
that.
family.
And if
Yeah.
they do, like,
I don't
it's,
talk to them.
yeah,
Yeah. it's friction.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm grateful that I can, like, be around either side and be happy and be refreshed after being around either side of my family. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And it definitely took time because, again, it wasn't always like that. Like, sometimes I would come, like, and be with this side of the family, and I would still feel like an outsider.
Oh man, this hurts me.
But I'm glad that changed.
Me too. Me too. That's the main thing that it changed. But
It took time.
man, if I'd have known then, I probably would have tried to intervene and make it better a long time ago.
Yeah.
But go back to the immaturity as a man, and you have to live and you learn.
That's true. That's true. I mean, and I think I felt like that because, like, I guess I was only close or only really talked to you or my sister.
Yeah.
So if y'all weren't around, I felt like, I don't know, these people,
Which makes sense. That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
But now I've built relationships with everybody. So, like, now y'all don't even have to be around for me to go be around. And I feel comfortable. So, yeah. I love that. And, okay, do you find it easier being a dad to your daughters or to your son?
Well, y'all are great kids, so it's kind of easy all around. I have no problems. Far as being a dad, it's easy to love y'all. Y'all do everything the right way. It's just, I'm blessed to have the children that I have, and I'm extremely proud to be a father. It's easy.
What about, like, having a daughter that lived with you versus having two kids that didn't? Like, how would you say, like, the two different experiences were? Or were they the same for you?
Well, they're about the same because I love my daughters to death, and I'm just now really getting to being able to communicate with my son. So I was never like really in his life like I should have been. But I know my two daughters, like it was easy. They both got great support systems, so I could just fall back and watch from afar. And my main thing was to provide and protect for you.
Right.
So that come natural for me. So it wasn't hard at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a question for me?
I mean, what do you think will make our relationship better this next year?
I think the same, like consistency and just, I mean, we don't really have issues with communication anymore.
No.
So just, I guess, continue to be consistent with what we do. I come up here, we're in Charlotte right now, so I come up here like once a month, for different reasons. Sometimes get my hair done, but either way.
Nevertheless, it gives me a chance to see you.
Right, so either way, like, I still get to, come up here to see you, spend some time, even if it's just for a day.
And I look forward to that.
Yeah, so I think just continue to be consistent with those things. Yeah, and I think, like, you've been talking about moving back closer, so I feel like that would make it even better because then I can, like, pull up just anytime.
Well, I need to start packing up.
I can pull up anytime now, but I won't have to, like, plan to, like, drive 2.5, 3 hours versus just
it's rough. They're going 10, 15 minutes around the corner.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, if you do that, I think in the next year, like, yeah, we would, because I would probably be at your house like every weekend.
I hope every day.
It depends on how close to how far you are. We'll see, but yeah, I think that would I guess make things closer. But yeah, just continuing to communicate like we do, our consistent visits, and continue to have like family stuff, I guess.
Yeah, well, you do have a good foundation because like I heard the podcast with your mom and like Miss Louise's great grandmother, she would take care of you and she molded you to this point and it's still sticking with you to this day. Like it shows all over you. So you got two great sides of the family and you are totally blessed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So you mentioned my grandmother on my mom's side, and like my relationship like with your mom hasn't always been. I guess I wasn't as close to her as I was to my maternal grandmother. Yeah, but we've gotten closer throughout the past year actually. So How did it make you feel, I guess, not with me not being as close to her versus like how our relationship has grown now?
Well, I understood because you grew up in the house with Miss Louise, and from day one, she was the one who took care of you.
Right.
And, it's like you was her daughter or something.
Yeah.
So that was going to be natural. It's not. Can't nothing take the place of Miss Louise. So
Yeah.
I understood that, and it was not who's the best grandma. It's just the point that Miss Louise was there with you, and she raised you. So,
Right.
fantastic woman.
Yes.
And that makes me blessed also. It kind of made my job easier because I knew she was going to make sure you had everything you need. So
Right.
I could afford to skip out on a pair of Pampers. I know she'll get them eventually.
Yeah.
So I think you're extremely blessed, and I'm ecstatic to have you as my daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, how does it feel now seeing like how my relationship with your mom has evolved?
Well, it makes me feel good because, of course, it's my mother. I love her, and I want you to love her also and understand that she made me. So without me, it wouldn't be none of you. So, it makes me feel good. I'm in a better spot with that now.
That's good.
Yeah.
I guess I'm also. That was one thing that I talked about a lot in therapy. I think just as you mentioned, my grandmother on my mom's side, she played a huge role in my life. So I think a part of me, maybe after she passed, I guess, I guess a part of me wanted her to not really take the spot, but just like, I don't want to say step up either, but I guess a part of me just
feel a void.
Yeah, because like my grandma was such this great woman, and like now that she's gone, okay, well now can this grandmother be this person?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it just took a long time for me to just figure out what role she played in my life, and then accept that role, I guess, because like you said, nobody can fill my grandma's spot, like, because she did so much. But I guess just figuring out like where do we stand, or how can we develop a relationship, and what would that look like? So it took, because a lot of it was like, I don't say anger, but maybe just confusion, I guess, because so I grew up in the house with my mom's mom. Keandra kind of grew up with
my mom.
Right. So seeing how Keandra's relationship it was with her, it was just kind of like, why can't like our relationship be like that too? So I think now, and I just remember, last year when me and her went to Atlanta, and I sent you the picture, and you was like, "This makes me so happy."
Oh, yeah. It does.
So that's what makes me think like to ask that, because like our relationship has grown a lot, and again, like you said, it is your mom, you do love her, so obviously you want us to have a positive relationship.
Y'all had to just understand each other. Like that's what the line of communication is. Once you get older, you able to talk about things. You can figure things out a little better instead of not having an equation on what's going on.
Right.
So communication was the key into developing all these relationships. To be honest,
Right. And I think just understanding like I don't say life, but understanding life. Like when you grow up in a house with somebody, naturally you are closer to them.
Yeah.
So just understanding that versus if you see somebody every other weekend, like you won't be as. So I think I just had to accept things for what they were.
That's right.
And build from that. Like
right.
So yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about our relationship, and the main component of us growing within our relationship was like communication, consistency. I guess. Is there anything else you would say that added to our relationship growing and becoming healthy, I guess you can say?
No, communication, consistency, growing. Those three things you just said, those are the main components.
Yeah, of like us having a healthy relationship.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to like other dads who are struggling to have like healthy relationships with their daughters?
Well, just hug on them, love on them, prayer.
Yeah.
Try to be involved in their lives, support whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of.
What about like because I mentioned not being ready to receive the I love yous from you. Like that's what prompts me. What if their daughter like isn't ready to like receive those things?
Well, shit, if you love them, you love them. I mean, you ain't received it yet, but this way consistency. Just keep on being consistent, and it'll sink in after a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely consistency and just like, and I say this with any like parent-child relationship, being open to accept your child's viewpoint, and then putting in the work to change their feelings, I guess you can say. Because a lot of times, most children just want consistency in your presence, and for you to just make them feel like, obviously you love them, but to feel like they're important to you.
Yeah.
That's what most children want. So I think that's the main things. I would say like advice wise, like be present without the distractions, be consistent, be accountable, because some people like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I've said this before, probably not on the podcast, but I think that's one thing that made it easier for me to like build on a relationship with you is your accountability.
Oh yeah, I know. I know what I did and what I don't do. Definitely, I know who I am, and I own up to my actions.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think that would have been the difference. Like if you would have been like, nah, well, my fault, man. Your mama did then it would have been like, all right, I can't do this. But the fact that you own up to like your part or your actions, that made it like,
I can't blame nobody but myself. It's all on me.
We control ourselves.
That's right. So
yes. So being accountable.
That's
is
right.
Very important when it comes to like any type of relationship, but definitely like a parent-child relationship for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I always say go to therapy, because it took me and my mama to therapy. Luckily, we never had to go to therapy. I think our talk was it did what it needed to do. But I think by then, was I training to be a therapist? Possibly. I don't remember. But I think that knowledge is what kind of helped me with us. So definitely going to therapy for sure. All right, and then my last question. I think you have another question for me, but what is one thing that you are most proud of when it comes to your daughters or your kids as a whole in general?
Well, like I said, both of my daughters have master's degrees. No teenage pregnancy, so I'm extremely proud of them. Man, you have careers, it's a blessing to be a father, so I've been proud a long time, long time,
yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm just proud of y'all, period, like, it makes me smile to have two black daughters.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I always say that, because, like, I think when I was a teenager, and it was a lady that I was close to in church. Her name is Miss Erika, and I was telling her, like, kind of like our backstory. And she was like, your life probably should have been way different. Like, considering, like, having two teen parents and, like, some of the stuff that I'm going through. And I'm like, yeah, like, I would say, like, my parents are really lucky. But, like, really? I am pretty, like, blessed as well. So, yeah, for sure, I think.
It could have went another way, easily.
Yeah, because statistically, like, we should have been teen parents. Like, statistically, products of teen parents become teen parents. So, but I think for me, like, that was always in the back of my mind. Like, I'm not gonna be a statistic. Like, even at I can tell you, like, even at 15, I'm like, I'm not gonna be a statistic. So
I'm glad you had that mindset. Because, man, that was my worst fear.
Really?
Yeah, wow. I would not want you to be a teen mom. That was the last thing I wanted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so once you got past that,
it's like,
easy going then. Yeah, that's right.
No. But luckily, like, I guess both of us, me and Keandra, like, we grew up in church. I started going when I was like 12, so we both had like that rearing. And I think going to like magnet school, education was like most important to me. Like, all that other stuff, I wasn't even thinking about it. It was just get good grades and go to church, and so
make something out yourself.
Right. One thing my grandma always said, and it stuck with me too, is just like being better than where you come from. Yeah. So I guess that's where that like not being a statistic thing came from, because like, not saying like being a teen parent's the worst thing in the world, but like just be better than that, So
I mean, it'll hinder you, it'll slow you down to get the way you're going. See,
right.
Maybe if you were a teen mom, who knows, you'll have a master's degree at this point. You might just now be working on it.
Right. That's true. So it makes a lot of sense. So Glad you're proud of us and our accomplishments.
Yes, I am. And there's many more to come.
For sure.
It just started.
That's true.
So
That's
I
true.
got a lot more proud to be.
You know, I sometimes think about getting a doctor's degree, but
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead.
who's going to pay for it? I already owe the government a lot of money.
We work it out.
I guess. We'll see. All right, I think, did you have one last question for me or no?
I think I got covered on my question.
Oh, okay.
On my notes, I don't see anymore.
Well, the people were expecting for you to be like silly, so you have to like give them something to laugh for or laugh at before we.
Well, that's where the growing come in, man. I don't have to be silly all the time, man. I'm just nice and settled. So
You don't just be silly like when you're about to get baptized.
okay, well, I don't have none. I gotta have a segue to be silly. So this is a serious conversation. This is about my therapy, talking to my daughter. So our relationship. So I can't find room to be silly in that.
I guess you have a point there.
All right.
Well, it's been a cool conversation.
It has.
Yeah. All right, so you know how we end? We end with the coping skill and the affirmation. So before we pull that, though, what are some, I mean, I guess we kind of hit on this, but like what are some coping skills that you typically use these days?
I don't know if we're allowed to say some of this stuff on YouTube. Definitely.
Yeah, let's not say.
Cannabis.
Okay.
that's
You know,
how I
different
cope.
strokes for different folks. Yeah. Is that the main one? I hope not.
No, the main one is prayer.
Okay.
Always God. And then,
Yeah.
cannabis and meditation and
Video games.
video games. That's right. Those are my coping mechanisms.
Okay. Oh, one thing I did talk about before too on the Daddy Daughter Dynamics podcast, I talked about how you aren't like most parents in the fact of like you don't mind calling your daughters and asking for like advice or just to vent. Would you? Why are you like that?
I'm saying I don't mind. It's great that I have y'all to call for that.
And I think I said like that's one thing that I love too because like it shows us or me specifically like you trust my opinion. So I was gonna say like would that be like one of your coping skills like venting to us or calling?
Definitely, you are a licensed therapist, so I would call you an event and if I'm facing something that I don't understand, I want your opinion on it because you have the modern version of coping skills that I don't have. See, it could be some new ways came along, and I wouldn't know about them because I'm not in that circle. So you can help me with that part. So
I guess
it is a great coping skill. I really do enjoy talking to you and crying.
Crying?
I mean, I'm crying if I'm like, I'm tired of this job.
Oh, okay.
What should I do? So it kind of makes me feel good. I have somebody I can call to vent on things like that. So that is awesome. I'm glad you brought that up. That was great.
I try. Yeah. And then the other thing that we mentioned was, and I think it was the coping skill on the Daddy Daughter Dynamics episode, was like get a dad hug. And everybody asked like, do we hug? And I was like, no, but not because I'm not a physical touch person, but I didn't like we do hug like if I'm leaving, like I'm not gonna see you for a while, we'll hug that way. But like, do you know the 5 love languages?
Touch is one.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
So it's physical touch, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and what am I missing? Receiving gifts. So out of those 5, like, you probably know my love language is like quality time, obviously. What would you say is yours?
I guess we just like quality time would be.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why we love family time so much.
Yeah.
And that's what like rejuvenates us. So that would be considered a coping skill as well.
Okay, well, yeah, quality time is big with me. I'm not a touchy-feely type of guy myself, but sometimes it's good to give a hug and stuff like that. But quality time would be it.
Okay, makes sense. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get our coping skill and our affirmation for the week. If you can, we already pulled them because we didn't want to reach all the way across. So first, our coping skill. What is our coping skill?
You picked this for me. Go to therapy.
Yes. We talked about that before.
This is my therapy. So
I cannot be a therapist.
You a licensed therapist. Why can't you be my
Unethical.
therapist?
It's unethical to be a therapist to someone that you are related to or that you already have a relationship with. So I can help you find your own therapist. But yes.
Well, I give it a try.
I mean, that's good. I think, and I think a lot of people say like going to therapy or finding a therapist is like dating because you gotta find the right fit for you.
That's right. And now I gotta pour my heart out to this person.
It's a judgment free zone.
Okay.
But therapy, like as you can see, like therapy has helped me a lot too. So I don't call you about relationship stuff crying no more.
Well, therapy has helped then.
Because, yeah, you know, it used to be rough. All right, and our affirmation is you are loved just for being who you are.
That's right.
Just for existing.
That's right. Love you no matter what.
As a parent should.
That's right. That's right.
And I love that too, just because, like, usually, I mean, you always make me feel loved. Or, like, if I feel, because sometimes I don't feel, and I think we talked about this before, sometimes I don't feel successful. Or I don't feel, I guess, as successful as I should be right now. And like we talked about before, and you'd be like, "What are you like? You're crazy. Like you're successful. Like who else at your age is doing this or that?" And I'm just like, I just don't feel. So when I call you with those things, and you just like affirming me in those moments, makes me feel like love just for who I am and just for where I'm at. So that's pretty good.
Definitely. Yeah. Don't feel that way.
I said sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes I just feel like I could be doing more.
I mean, it's always room for improvement, but don't get down on yourself. That's true. Just be like, well, I'm going to improve this and go after it.
That's true. Sounds good. All right. Any other thoughts or anything you want to add before we close out?
Well, I think we about said enough on this one.
All right. Well, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys took something from this conversation with my dad. By the time you guys hear this, Father's Day will have passed. So even if you need to have a conversation with your father after Father's Day, if you feel led to having that conversation, or feel led to writing a letter, because obviously that worked for me, that worked for us. So doing that can help. And you can follow the podcast at CBTV on the Couch. Follow me at Kanesha28_J, Ebony at Ivories of Ebony, and you're not on social media. So if you want some dad content from me, you know, sometimes I post them, sometimes not all the time, because he don't want to be in front of the camera like that for real. So we thank you for coming today and being in front of the camera today. But that's all we have, and I hope you guys remember to take these skills beyond the couch. Bye, y'all.